All right, so picture this. You want to write a contract, right? Should be pretty simple. The laws are straightforward. Case history, you're not really that sure about, but you don't really think that it's worth going to your lawyer. Could you use AI to get you there? Now, recently there was a case that made the news where a lawyer put something out as an argument to a judge and found out that AI hallucinated the law, right? And this is a lawyer. Why did that happen? And does that mean that AI is completely unusable for simple use cases like contract writing? Now, disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. You should talk to your lawyer. But what I am is somebody with 6 years of compliance. Being a compliance consultant is not the same as being a lawyer, but that is someone who is reading laws, reading case histories, and trying to come up with solutions. So what I'm going to give you today is my formula for creating contract drafts before they go to the legal team. And to do this, you need all of the LLMs. You need Gemini, you need Claude, and you need ChatGPT. So let's dive right in. So let's say I want to write an employment contract for a receptionist in Hawaii. This is how you might think you start with AI, but that's not it. I want to write an employment contract for a receptionist in Hawaii. Do research on all applicable laws and case history. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this. We are going to do deep research and kick that off. Then we are going to do the same thing in Claude and then do the same thing in Gemini. And while these are working, Claude is usually the fastest when it comes to deep research. So when you run deep research, they're usually going to ask you a bunch of qualifying questions, right? So when I went with ChatGPT, they were asking, is this full-time, part-time, and temporary? Go ahead, you can read on the screen and pause, and I answered all of those. Now, in this situation, I'm going to pretend as if my client is a spa and I'm helping them for my client. Now, I do feel like it helps when you create that distance with the LLM. I think you get more critical results. Now, Gemini went and it was the first to finish. And here we have a bunch of deep research. Now, we are not doing this deep research. If you want to go over it, you can. But what you're doing is you're using pretty much this technique called RAG, right? Where without getting into it, it's not relying on the LLM's training data. It's getting as much relevant data as possible and then applying it to whatever you're asking. Okay, now we're going to turn off deep research. Great. So I said, write me a contract for a receptionist as if I am the employer. Use your research as a guide. Now, this is probably one of the most important steps. And one of the things that we really got to understand is deep research was the first agent that was released. And if you are not using agents, you are not using AI or leveraging AI to its benefit. The benefit is not how it can go back and forth with you and give you intelligent answers that can pass the Turing test. It's not it. Where you really get to value is when you can sit there and tell it, go out and do something, go get this information for this task, and then let's move on, right? Boom. So now here we have our first employment contract. And this is your first step, right? Oftentimes you are asking yourself, which LLM is the best? But another step, another level is, how can I get the LLMs to work together, right? How can I create a better result with each of them, right? Sometimes it's not about which one is best, but about getting a different perspective. Another thing that you're going to get and that you're going to find is after it writes a contract, it's going to say like, yo, I did a good job. And yo, here are all the reasons why I did a good job. Like, only take that at face value. That does not necessarily mean that it did the best job it could possibly do. I'm sure it did a better job than what I would have done in this time, right? Guaranteed. So now we're at the phase where we are having them compare each other. And note that when I'm doing this, I am personifying who it was written by. I don't know if this does anything. Honestly, I don't. But I somehow assume that if I was to tell one of the other platforms that it was written by another, maybe it would, be a little bit competitive, right? And here we got Gemini admitting, right? So it says the contract provided by your colleague is an excellent example of a detailed, legally aware employment document. It is a much stronger starting point because it specifically addresses key Hawaii laws. Great. So now we're going to say combine the best parts of each and write a new contract. And Claude's going to say areas where my contract is basically better, areas where colleagues' contract has merit, right? And we're going to do this one more time. It's including OSHA, compliance, non-solicitation, and business protections. This is beautiful. This is beautiful, right? Okay, so now OpenAI has finished its research, and we've already gone back and forth a few times between Claude and Gemini. So now that the research is done, I'm going to ask it to go ahead and write me a contract. We're effectively going to do the same thing, right? Now, we don't really need to go through the entire process on this video, but pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth between the two. Actually, you know what I want to do? Before I do that, I want to see what Claude says about OpenAI's, the ChatGPT's version. Ooh. And this is why we go back and forth, right? So when I see this, right, when we see these kinds of discrepancies between the two, this is actually a pretty important step. I didn't think that we'd get here, but I'm happy that we did. Yeah. See, now it's picking up some of the issues. Great. So ChatGPT has some red lines too. And this is the beauty, right? They actually have a legitimate difference in legal opinion. I think that's awesome, right? So now what we're going to do is we have two different versions that have been thoroughly vetted out against each other that are slightly different. And you know what? Like, if you were going to have two different lawyers, chances are they're going to write two slightly different contracts, right? So this is a perfect point to end the video where, I'm not here to tell you which one to decide, but I am here to tell you that now we have an intelligent response to each contract that was written, and we had every LLM compete with each other to create the best possible thing. Now, I hope you guys found this really, really useful. I'm going to get 2 versions of this. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to my client for their legal team and see what they got to say for the receptionist that they're hiring. All right, y'all. Until next time.